Alright, so I'm in Republic Square. I made my way all the way here and even managed to find Ranush. But you know what's going on in the center here? Drones flying around, by the way, to record the whole thing from above. So in the beginning of yesterday, it was announced that the day before, so that must have been Friday, Saturday. Saturday announcements came out that they wanted to gather on the Republic Square with 300,000 people. So 300,000 is of course quite a big aim. They didn't really reach that, but the fact that yesterday the amount of people that gathered was insane, as I should believe from the stories. So the government on that moment, of course, predicted so many people going out. They were very intimidated by that, and they came with the same amount of intimidation, trying to overrule that. So the military units were activated. They built walls of soldiers, of heavily armored police with shields, building a wall, preventing, trying to close off this Republic Square. I realize I switched to English now. That's okay. So other people can also understand what's going on here. So yeah, but the people did gather, and you could see on news channels that really they came from anywhere, everywhere, huge crowds of people out. Just, you know, the soldiers and the police that was activated was the most heavy version. They even put on these bivouac hats to make them anonymous, and that's where Ranush and I saw it on the TV back home, and we were just shocked. Because in the moment when they do that, they dehumanize those people themselves, you know. As soon as you are put in a uniform, you feel you got an authority or you got a role, and you could really feel it, that these people didn't really consider that they are also with the people, even though now they had a role to be a police officer or a soldier or whatever. But they somehow seem to forget that as soon as they were dressed up in their crowd with a whole army of hundreds of these camouflaged suits. They seem to forget that. And especially with these bivouac hats on, if you put those on, then it dehumanizes, you know. Like I myself wore costumes, and as soon as you put them on, you step into an act. So if your act is then to be protector of some order, then you just, yeah, that was so obvious. Like, why are they not joining the people? It's so clear they have the same mission here. So that was heartbreaking to see that again. And Ranush and I were really terrified for what would come, you know, if it would become another huge clash. Because those 2 years ago with Electric Yerevan, the protest ended up in a huge clash with those fire hoses. Shooting water on the people and loads of people being arrested. So, but eventually it ended really quite peaceful. They arrested quite hundreds of people, and there's a main leader of the protest. Well, peaceful protest, just to emphasize that again. Main leader of the protest who has been in discussion with the prime minister, and eventually he also wanted together with the we have won. So it was yesterday that the leader of the protest has met with first the prime minister here on this square, and eventually the president said that he would be willing to have a dialogue. Well, this can be seen on the internet. I might share the video clip later on. That resulted in nothing, of course. In no time, after a few exchanges, they started to intimidate each other. I don't know if it was both ways, but at least the president made himself quite foul, referring back to an incident of 10 years ago, which ended bloody with several killings. To put some severity on it or something. So no, there wasn't really a dialogue, and the protester on that moment, the leader of the protest, said, well, I came out here to meet you to negotiate your terms of stepping down from your role. But of course he was not into this, so no, that wasn't his plan at all, so until then at least. The president stepped away, and soon after, this leader protester got arrested. And that's a serious stuff. After all those hundreds that were already arrested, which at least should have been 3, maybe more, 100 people being arrested. So I heard numbers of 350 somewhere halfway along the day, so that must have become more. Yeah, so leader of the protest got arrested. Prime Minister was trying, the President was trying on that moment to speak to the journalist and to say, sorry people, thank you for your time here, but this is not the dialogue, so he stepped out. He tried to keep his face, maintain his pride there. So, just have a look, Then out here what happened is that the protest continued, even got ignited more, like if they capture our initiator, our leader, our front face, who was just into nothing more than keeping peace. He really kept the crowd from being violent, keeping it non-violent, just a protest of walking protest. So, but yeah, he got arrested, so that fired up the crowd even more. And yesterday evening they must have gathered here with a huge crowd as well. Not as big as this, because the whole square is full. You hardly can move. Just that I'm this tall that I can look on top of it and maneuver a bit, but it's so crowded out there. So, yeah, what happened next? There was a tipping point. Like if he is being taken down, then let's see what happens next. Yesterday they said to the crowd, people just go home at 10, let's stop. Also no more honking your horns to protest, because the whole city was honking the horns of their cars to make them discontent with the system and the president known, hearable. And that's been impressive. As you see this, it's impressive. This is huge to see Armenians gather like this. I live out here like 5 years now, but I've hardly seen them this gathered, this united, and this optimistic, because they stayed at home, downpressed, depressed, demotivated, demoralized, because the system just disempowered them for so long. So my wife Ranu, she told me that by the time yesterday night the protests got really big out here, the police and the military units were nowhere to be found anymore. So and today officially even it made the Dutch news. I just noticed, a friend updated me that the army or police, even huge parts of them, must have joined the crowd, joined the people, the civilians. That it's enough. So even their tipping point must have been reached, where they decide, at least they unite. They feel that they also belong with this. It's the gathering of crowds. There comes a tipping point, a moment that you just can't. You cannot not join the movement anymore. So people are really congratulating each other here. It is a party in that sense. No one knows what's going to happen next, of course, but one fact has been achieved, that just 3-4 hours ago, the Nahaga, the president, has finally announced that he would step down. I don't know the details yet about what motivation he gave there, but that's a turning point, because with him comes the whole system. And it will refresh. And you see this, like, have a look. There's even priests from the church joining the crowd here. And not that I give all that much credit to representative of the church system anymore, but that they join us is just fantastic. Okay, that's very touching. This is an older man who, at this moment, steps into his role and blesses people. And joins the crowd here. Look. And that can be the role of of a social worker, you know, of a community worker. And I believe we can return to this where people take their roles in the community, and it's not about power anymore and the institution, authority. No, but that they step into a role of being a supporter, a guider for the community. Look, it's blessings here. Ja, hier heb ik geen woorden voor. I got words for this. Yeah, very touching, very touching. So he came to bless people, to greet people, and people also come to him like that. Very, very touching. Just have a look over here. Hello, ladies. Snoravor.